listening to The Pump Fake. With your host, Jarrett Bailey.
And welcome into the Pump Fake, everybody. Jarrett Bailey with you as always. Hope everyone's doing great today. Joined by my good friend covering the New England Patriots, Taylor Kyles. He's even got like the whole vibe going there, the red and blue. It looks good. What are those posters on the wall? I'm trying to make them out.
We got Avatar, The Last Airbender, and we got The Last Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Okay. I didn't know you were an Avatar guy. You know what? I feel so left out of a lot of things. I was never a huge Avatar kid.
I get that, honestly. I didn't like the first season. It's really once you get past that one, and season 2 is where it really picks up. I've been trying to get my girlfriend into it for years, and it wasn't until like Toph comes into the mix that she was like, okay, this isn't that bad. So I do not blame you, to be honest. It took me a while.
The biggest cartoon like I was into when I was in like that age range, I would say, was like the 2000s series of Ninja Turtles was awesome. It had a banging theme song. I've always been a big.
Remember that one,
dude? Oh my goodness!
I can still go word for word.
That is, I totally forgot about TMNT Fast Forward. Yeah, the futuristic weapons and everything. I thought, oh man, you just blew my. I've got to find that now because they've got on Paramount. They have like the original 2000s one. I don't know if they have Fast Forward. I haven't looked that deep, but oh man, that is a pull. I love that.
List, baby.
I'm gonna have to. Yeah, it's gonna be great. We're here to talk about the New England Patriots. They've been incredibly active. We kind of knew that they were going to be coming into this offseason with more money than God that they had to spend. And they've been spending it. You know, they've added the likes of Milton Williams, Carlton Davis, Harold Landry, Robert Spillane, Morgan Moses, amongst others. What are your immediate takeaways after this week in terms of the people that they've added?
It wasn't a lot of surprises, to be honest. This is about what I was hoping they would do. I know the talk of the town right now was, well, they didn't address offensive line at left tackle specifically. They didn't address wide receiver, but those were both positions coming into this where I was even saying, I mean, unless Ronnie Stanley or T. Higgins or, Chris Godwin hits the market, there's just not a lot of options. And It's like, do you want to sign Dan Moore to a 4-year deal? I wasn't super high on that. If they did it, I would have said, okay, that's their vision. We'll see how it works out. But it felt like the draft was their best place to get a left tackle. And wide receiver, maybe you get a veteran like a T. Higgins, who's a low-tier wide receiver 1, elite wide receiver 2 kind of guy. But are you going to get that long-term guy who's going to grow with Drake Maye and turn into his guy? You really weren't sure. But defensively is where I felt like you could really make the moves that were going to make a difference. Now, I would not have felt good about the rest of them the way I do now if it weren't for Milton Williams. Right. That was the one piece where it's like, this is the creme de la creme of free agency for your team. Go out and get him, and everything else kind of falls into place, where Robert Spillane looks a lot better behind Milton Williams. Harold Landry looks a lot better eaten because Milton Williams is drawing attention. Like, you see, it's a little bit of a puzzle where Milton Williams is the exciting one. When he went to Carolina for a couple minutes, we were doing a live stream. I was devastated. Like, anyone who wants to see, I'm usually Mr., try to find the bright side. If you want to see what I look like when, the bottom falls out, it was that. But considering what they could do, who was on the market, I think they did as well as you could have expected. And I'm going to be much more excited to watch this defense this season in this Vrabel image than I was last season, which was not easy to watch in large part due to injury.
Yeah, and putting Carlton Davis opposite of Christian Gonzalez, I mean, that's got to be exciting because on paper, that immediately becomes one of the better duos at that position in the NFL, especially in an AFC East where you got to worry about containing Josh Allen. You got to worry about Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill twice a year. That, I mean, as a fan and as a guy who covers that team, you got to feel good about that.
Yeah, and I was watching the tape for Carlton Davis, and at first, I'm not going to lie, I was a little nervous because he's a very handsy corner.
Sure.
And that's the first thing you got to understand about him is like, there's going to be some penalties involved, but really with the entire cornerback group, like Charvarius Ward, DJ Reed, all those guys that were kind of in the same ballpark, I think they all signed pretty much the same deal. That's the case, right? They can play zone, but they're also going to be super sticky in man. They're going to draw some penalties, but guys are going to know when they're on the schedule. So now Carlton Davis gets to be what he's always really been, is that really good cornerback too, who maybe isn't quite athletic enough to follow those true alphas. Now it's It's Gonzo, you play cat coverage. Gonzo gets the scary cat, and then obviously Carlton Davis gets that number 2, which, when that's Jalen Waddle, it's not the easiest job in the world, but at least you can, give him extra help to that side if it's safeties or whatever. So, a secondary last year that had injuries was also very undersized. Now you got that size, you got the physicality. And even though Vrabel's mostly been a zone coach in his career, he likes to play man when he's got the horses. So it seems like he'll be getting back to that.
All right, so let's talk about the other side of this coin where, a lot of people were hoping for a big name receiver. I mean, a utility guy like Matt Collins, who had a career year in Buffalo last year, but still needs somebody who can be that definitive go-to receiver for Drake Maye, who is coming off a Pro Bowl year as a rookie, and played really well and showed a ton of promise. And I think gave a lot of confidence to Patriots fans of like, all right, this guy is the future. In terms of the names that are left, though, on the market, there's not really that big splash name. Might need to turn to a trade to maybe make something happen. I think one that would make sense to me would be a guy like Courtland Sutton because of, if you look at Denver right now, and last year there were rumors that he was potentially going to hold out because he wanted a new deal. He has a career year, the most catches in a season for his career. He still doesn't have a new deal. He's 30. It doesn't look like they have any sort of intentions on paying him. If you're New England, like you're not going to ever get more for him than what you will right now. I think it just makes more sense for Denver to move him now rather than lose him for nothing next offseason when you can still get like a pretty decent haul for him in terms of a draft pick. And, if you tell Mike Vrabel to squint, it kind of looks like A.J. Brown catching deep balls out there. So I think it makes perfect sense to go and pursue a guy like Courtland Sutton.
I've been wanting Courtland Sutton in New England for like a few years now. Yeah. I think he's exactly that X receiver, the big body, also the leader. He's been a captain, the kind of old head in the room who can still play. That is exactly what this room is needed because you've got Demario Douglas, Jalen Polk, Javon Baker. Kendrick Bourne is in the room, but, he hasn't had the kind of career where young guys can look to him and necessarily say, this is how, the guy I follow if I want to have this long, successful career. Fair or not, Kendrick Bourne has been injured. He's been inconsistent, different offensive coordinators. It's not all his fault. But that's just the reality. Courtland Sutton's a guy where you're like, nah, this is a guy who is the kind of career that I could maybe aspire to and also teach guys how to be professionals. And Matt Collins kind of is that guy a little bit, brings kind of an edge where he's got personality. Like it was him and Nick Westbrook-Akine. It felt like if you wanted that veteran leader who maybe isn't going to light the world on fire, but knows how to get it done in this McDaniels Vrabel system. But yeah, I love Courtland Sutton. I think he and Drake Maye would be best friends. Clearly did pretty damn well with Bo Nix, and we know that Drake likes to sling it deep even more. So if there is any way to get Courtland Sutton, that's a guy that even I'd give a little bit more than maybe you need to for. Not in terms of draft capital, but if you want to give him a little extra money to sweeten the pot, like they have more money than they can feasibly spend. Some guys like DK Metcalf, I was like, yeah, you can spend it, but there's some reasons why you're a little bit hesitant, right? Still a beast, but for a team that's young and trying to reestablish culture, I don't know. Courtland Sutton checks every box for me. So yeah, I'd be about it for sure.
All right, here. I'm glad that you said DK Metcalf because let's play a little role-playing game real quick. Not that kind of role-playing game. If you want that, you got to subscribe to the Patreon, everybody. All right, so let's play a game. All right, I'm going to call you right now. You got to pick up the phone. You're Elliot Wolf here. Go ahead. Pick up the phone.
Hello. This is Elliot.
Elliot, yeah, this is Omar Khan, Pittsburgh. How you doing, man?
Oh, what's good, Omar? How's it going, baby?
Things are a little bit weird down here. We're waiting for Aaron to, he's on the beach right now. We're giving him his time and whatnot. We definitely don't want to bring like Russ. I don't want to do that again. But like, anyway, man, I'm calling you. I know you need a receiver. How about this? Just straight up right now. I'll give you George for pick 69. What do you say? Is that something we can do?
69. That's going to be kind of tough, man. I got a young room already. Another guy, he's got a colorful personality.
I look, man, I understand that, but like, who's Drake gonna be throwing the ball deep to this year? Let's be real. Come on now. How about this? I'll throw in. What if I throw in a fifth to go with George? I'll give you a draft pick with him, and then you give me that pick. What's that? How about that?
69, our first or second, third round pick. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now.
Oh man, neither do I. I want to say it's your first. I feel like that's right at the beginning of the third round. So I think that would be your first.
How about our second, third rounder? How about that?
Okay, if it's going to be the second, third rounder, can I change the 5 to a 6?
I think that's fair.
All right. Pleasure doing business with you. Enjoy them.
Take care, brother. Thank you.
All right. Yep. Have a good one. All right.
Play for us.
All right. Then if that's something that can be done, then I'm totally cool with the Steelers sending away George Pickens now to a team like New England who needs a deep threat rather than because they're not going to pay George Pickens. They made that very clear when they paid DK Metcalf. They're not paying both of them. And by the way, Derek Bell, who covers the Steelers for Steelers now, one of my good friends on the beat, I think he was the one who coined the term for this passing duo of 9 routes and crash outs. I think that's a pretty good label for them. So yeah, I think that Pickens, if they don't trade him this year, he will certainly be on a different team next offseason. And if you're going to do that anyway, they don't have Super Bowl aspirations this year. I would trade Pickens, get an extra pick back that they lost for trading for DK Metcalf, draft a receiver in the first round like a Matthew Golden, a Emeka Egbuka, Luther Burden, whoever's there that you feel the most confident in, and then go from there with your receiving room rather than delaying the inevitable of moving off Pickens anyway.
Yeah, the one thing that would concern me a little bit with Pickens is if you are paying him, like, now I kind of want to go back and rethink, because if you're going to give it up, I would be hesitant to immediately give him the new deal, right? I at least want to see what he's like in the building. Like, okay, you got Mike Vrabel, right? If you're going to have a personality, at least it's a guy who you know is going to produce, who could be potentially that number one. And with Drake Maye, like that's that ISO winner, his Tez Walker, whatever, like that's going to work out. But you can't pay him if he's going to be the crash out guy, right? If he's going to be on the field, if he's not going to necessarily put it all out there and not set a good example, because if you're a new regime, you can't be giving up those kind of contracts. And I think you see that in the free agents they signed. They did overpay for those guys for sure, but after we saw them in those intro press conferences, it's like, okay, I understand. This is them saying, if you want to succeed on this team, look at what those guys are doing. And I think that Pickens is a perfect fit for Drake May's skill set. The only thing in this, you can't overlook it, as annoying as it is when you just want to like hoard talent, the personalities do matter. So the deal, maybe, but if he comes to New England, he does his thing and he doesn't make himself a headline for the wrong reasons, then sure, I would be much happier making him, however high paid he wants to be.
I would trust a guy like Mike Vrabel to be able to hone that in a little bit and be like, look, bro, like we want to pay you, but please don't give us a reason not to. So, and I think that would be a good environment for him to go and earn that payday. By the way, you talked about the intro press conferences. Morgan Moses had me ready to run through a wall. Goodness gracious, what an intro. Yes. What's a signing like that do for the offensive line, by the way? That's a unit that needed some retooling, reshaping. Do you like the addition of Morgan Moses?
I love it. Now, there's a lot of good dudes on that Patriots offensive line. But as we saw last year, David Andrews goes down. Yeah. They didn't have a leader, right? There was no one to really point to, because you had Mike Nwonu, who is the guy who's had success, who's the elder statesman in the building. But, he also isn't the guy who's going to be the leader, right? He did take charge, but you still need someone who's done it for a long time. And Morgan Moses, like, this is a guy who was with Trent Williams early on in his career. Trent Williams was apparently very good with the young guys, kind of bringing them along. And Morgan Moses, like, quote machine. This is clearly a guy who's, like, watching motivational speeches, like self-help stuff, like very much like on point with all of that. So with the room that's very young, like you got Caden Wallace, you got Layden Robinson as guys who you're hoping start at some point. I mean, Vidarian Lowe, as much as I like him, he's a spot starter. So as long as he's been in the league, it's kind of the Kendrick Bourne situation where, like, I'm not really looking to you for necessarily like production advice, even though I love you as a person. And David Andrews just got released. So Morgan Moses, offensive line, the connection is so huge. He's the guy who's going to make sure they're tight off the field, which, again, easy to overlook, but that stuff does translate on the field as long as the talent's there and the coaching are there to supplement it. And I do think that Morgan's the kind of guy who can show these young players how to succeed, how to work, how to take care of their bodies, how to just create those bonds that do matter in the trenches. So they still need to add their left tackle. I don't necessarily know what they're going to do at center and left guard right now. Those are still spots where they at least need to add some competition. Yeah. But the right side, and Nwonu and Morgan Moses, they're solid. Like pass protection, they're set. Run blocking, that gap scheme, they should be really fun to watch. And then you're just hoping that the young talent comes along, as well as whatever draft pick they end up making a left tackle.
Overall, schematically, what do you think the offense looks like now with, Josh back under the headset for like his 9th stint in New England or however many he's done? But how do you feel about the offense as a whole and what it would look like with him calling plays for Drake Maye and what Drake can do in the offense itself?
So I think fundamentally it's still going to be that Josh McDaniels offense, the Earnhardt Perkins and all that, where the quarterback's going to have control, as much freedom as he can handle. Kind of funny where Mac Jones got that control as a rookie. The next year, Matt Patricia took it all away, and he was like, wait, what's going on? Like, you can't just give me all the keys and then tell me to, play in this little tiny box. So that's going to be great for Drake Maye's skill set. He's a smart kid. And as everyone's acknowledged, he can do pretty much everything. And Josh McDaniels and Mike Vrabel have said that, no, this playbook is going to cater to Drake Maye. Now, some of that's going to be moving pockets, right? Bootlegs. I think we're going to see more zone than we've seen from Josh McDaniels in other seasons. But also, I think we're going to see some of the Cam Newton stuff that we saw back in 2020, because everyone talks about Josh and, Tom Brady. Josh has shown that he can make a pretty damn good offense when Tom Brady's not here. In 2020, there was no reason that their offense should have been competitive. Like, you had Cam Newton with no shoulder throwing to Demir Bird, to to a young Jacoby Myers. Like, it was not a good situation in New England that season. But basically, Josh was like, all right, we have Cam Newton. We can run the ball. And it was like Cam Newton in the shotgun, running gap, running zone, like reverses, doing like all this stuff that you had never really seen outside of Jacoby Brissett, for the first start that he ever made against the Texans years before. So Josh understands how to implement different things and maximize his quarterbacks. And he spent this offseason in college programs and NFL programs trying to update his offense and make sure that he was more on the cutting edge. So I don't know what exactly that's going to look like, but they've got Riley Larkin, who just came from Ohio State, so some Chip Kelly offense, Ashton Grant from the Browns. Like, you have different ideas, West Coast, different things like that are going to be in New England. So I can't tell you definitively what it's going to look like outside of what we've already seen from Josh. But I don't think this is going to be Drake Maye last season where, he runs 3 zone reads a game and you feel like there's more that you could put on his plate. I think we're going to see an unleashed Drake Maye as much as he can handle in 2025.
He was my favorite quarterback of the draft class last year, and to see him get the instant success that he had, I felt like that was a gold star for me. Just being like, all right, I at least got that one right. Let's talk about the rest of the division a little bit, because I think in terms of the layout right now, I would probably put the Patriots 2. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, what about the Dolphins? I am so tired of hearing about Lieutenant Yeezy Vape at head coach and pretending that this is a team that should be. Mike McDaniel has as many playoff wins as Jarrett Bailey and Taylor Kyles does. And I'm so tired of every year people coming into the season talking about the Miami Dolphins and how, oh man, Mike McDaniel's a genius. I don't care. I think they are the most overrated team in football. They've been that for the past 3 or 4 years since McDaniel got the head coaching job. I think right now, if I had to pick what team will have more wins, it would be New England over Miami.
I want to see what wide receiver and left tackle look like for sure. But I'll say this. I think defensively now they actually have the speed to be a lot more competitive with Miami. And that's just been the issue almost every year. One, it's that their offense isn't competitive. So, pretty much the Dolphins are in control of the entire game. But very rarely do you see Miami blowing the Patriots out. It feels like Tua's undefeated against him, but it just constantly feels like they keep Miami in the game long enough. Tua gives them chances to get back. In that second half, he's going to make some kind of mistake. You're going to get a chance to pick off a pass. Sometimes they capitalize, sometimes they don't, but it just feels like right at the end, things start to just fall apart. And I think Mike Vrabel, obviously Belichick was mostly there when that was happening, and there were different reasons for it. But I think last year was a joke. This year, Mike Vrabel gives you some seriousness. He's faced these teams before and has some level of experience, but I also think the defense is going to be prepared. And offensively, I think they're actually going to be serious. And hopefully, I think the last time Josh was here, they played Miami the first week of the season, and I believe it was Damian Harris fumbled, what would have been a game-winning score. They only needed a field goal, and he fumbled at the goal line. So, you get Josh McDaniel's offense back in here with a good quarterback, with hopefully just at the very least complementary weapons that can just get the job done for Drake Maye, and a serious defense. Miami, at the very least, I think they're going to be able to keep up with the Jets. I would say they should be more than competitive. I think they could probably handle the Jets this season. Then it's going to come down to the Bills, as it always does, who they've also been more competitive with than they've had any reason being the past couple of years.
They were up, 14-0 on them in the second matchup. Or no, that was the first matchup that they had with going to Buffalo. They take an early 2-touchdown lead, and everyone's like, all right, what the hell are the Bills doing? They're just asleep at the wheel. Even beat them 2 years ago
in Gillette, Mac Jones with that comeback. So,
oh, goodness, I forgot about that.
That relationship evolves with Vrabel in town, too. Yeah.
That game pissed me off so much, the Mac Jones comeback. The Bills didn't play great at all year, all game, but they took the lead late, and then McDermott's defense just makes Mac Jones look like Joe Montana on the final drive, and they score with 8 seconds left or something. And I was just like, oh my God, what are they
Cap it
doing?
off with a Gesicki gritty.
Goodness
Really
gracious, that
pissed
was
off
Mike
the
Gesicki who
haters.
did it too. Yeah, no goodness, yeah, that was a rough one for the Josh Allen stand that I am. Let's talk about the Jets real quick. How do you feel about the Justin Fields signing?
I'm so indifferent. I don't care. Like, I think once again, I think they're fast enough to not be like Patriots defenses of old, where like Mitch
Yeah,
Trubisky could look like a Hall of Fame quarterback because they weren't fast enough to keep up with him.
yeah,
But yeah, like Fields doesn't really scare me as a passer. If you play sound defense, he shouldn't be able to do a whole lot against you. As talented as he is, obviously, like I think he is what he is as a quarterback, and that's someone that, as long as again you play fundamental football, shouldn't give you too many problems. And then as a runner, if you're athletic enough to keep him in the pocket, not let him out, and again, it's discipline and athleticism. That's how you beat Justin Fields. So I don't really care. I know that the quarterback out of Florida State, Jordan Travis, like I would be more worried about him at quarterback as a passer, to be very honest with you.
Wow.
So I think that kind of lets you know how I feel about Justin Fields as the Jets quarterback.
Do you like the Aaron Glenn hire? Because I find myself saying, yeah, I think it could work, but I also said the same thing about Robert Saleh, and we all know how that worked out. I feel like until I see something from the Jets worthwhile, I'm just going to be eternally pessimistic about them as a franchise.
Yeah, the Jets are a cursed organization, and I like Aaron Glenn, so I will not allow myself. Like, if I'm going to get my hopes up, it's not going to be for a damn Jets head coach. So I'm just going to say, hey, Aaron, I hope you kill it. I wish you the best. I'm just not going to be paying attention for a couple of years, as much as I have to, obviously, in the division. But I'm just not going to really be paying attention and see what happens in a year or two, and if anything's on fire.
Are you seeing all this stuff about a potential Stephon Diggs reunion with Buffalo that's like taking over Twitter right now?
I have not seen it, but I think it makes sense. Like, I think the guy tore his ACL. He was fine last year, but it's not like he's the kind of presence where people are going to be falling over themselves to get him. Like, he's not signed, and we're at March 17th. So, I mean, it makes perfect sense. The Bills aren't exactly overstocked at wide receiver, so I get it.
Yeah, I think the thing that sparked it was he like randomly like added back all his Bills photos, that like his old post, back to his Instagram, and somebody's like, well, that could mean something. I think, I agree.
Crash out.
Yes. And look, I can't speak for Josh Allen, Sean McDermott, or Stephon Diggs. I can only speak as an outsider from what it appears to be. I think that leaving a place like Buffalo and seeing them have so much success, like one of their best offensive seasons in team history without you, and seeing Josh win MVP without you, at least for me personally, that would humble me a lot. And, coming off a year where he was on pace for 100 catches again, and then he tears his ACL, but now north of 30, coming off an ACL, like, at least in my mind, I would be like, I don't have too many more shots at this. And, if there's a way that they can get Josh, Steph, and McDermott into a room and just like air whatever grievances led to the trade in the first place, hug, make up, and go get back to chasing rings together, I think that is the outcome that makes the most sense in my mind.
I mean, Stephon Diggs isn't exactly known for his humility. Like,
sure.
Is he with Cardi B right now?
Is he?
I think so.
Really?
I feel like, let me look it up real quick.
I am not aware of this if he is.
Yes. They sparked a romance rumor. Yeah, my God, I'm reading the AI. But yes, there's at least been rumors. So I don't know about humility necessarily, but I mean, if the guy wants a ring and he wants to go out on top and not as someone who, was forced to retire because of a torn ACL and lack of interest. Yeah. Get back to Buffalo, friend.
Cardi B and Stephon Diggs. No, I did not know about that. So
fascinating.
Good breaking news here. Over on the AFC, though, I mean, obviously we still have the draft to go, and the Patriots still have holes, especially on the offensive line and at receiver. Assuming that they make some sort of move to get Drake Maye, a go-to playmaker, and they at least get some semblance of a, starting caliber. Drake Maye's not going to die on every play offensive line. I think that they could be at least fun. I don't know if they're going to be a wild card team, but I think that no team is going to look at their schedule and be happy that they're playing New England. I think that they'll be at least in the mix. Like week 16, we're going to see them in the hunt at like 6-8 or whatever the hell the record would be at that point. We're like, oh man, if they win these games, get a little bit of help, they could sneak in as a surprise 7 seed. I think that that's kind of where how I feel about them going into this year right now.
I mean, they're like the Titans teams that Mike Vrabel coached, except they don't have A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry, but they do have a quarterback. So it's like, how would you feel about that, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
They don't have those elite skill players necessarily, but their quarterback can make up for the fact that they don't. And he's the one who can dictate and change the outcome of games. Now, the offensive lines obviously aren't the same. But again, we're talking about the Patriots. If they have an average offensive line, Drake Maye can do the rest in terms of keeping himself clean. Josh McDaniels. Like last year, the thing that scared me the most about Drake was you knew they'd have to rely on the quick game a lot. But Drake, in college, one of the few knocks that I had on him where I'm like, I don't know how long it's going to take to fix the footwork. You were like, maybe. But the quick game stuff, it just felt so inconsistent. Where it's like, even if the footwork improves, can he repeat this process over and over and be able to actually throw these where guys can get accuracy, not put the ball in harm's way? Yeah. He was excellent in the quick game. Like immediately when he became a starter. And that was what really caught me off guard because it wasn't even that way in the summer. He was pretty inconsistent. So that's just working within the structure of the offense. He really impressed as a rookie. Now, instead of Alex Van Pelt, who I thought did a really excellent job, maybe not as a play caller schemer, but as a quarterback developer and someone who put Drake in position to succeed, I thought he was really exceptional. But now you got Josh McDaniels. Whether or not it's going to be a cutting edge offense, it's going to be a respectable offense. So that gives you, okay, if Drake does his thing and he can make up for, whatever deficiencies they have, and, the defense is just going to be able to take advantage of bad football. Yeah, you don't want to play teams like that with good quarterbacks that don't hurt themselves. Yeah. It's just going to be a matter of Vrabel's vision actually being implemented. First year, we have no idea how that's going to look, especially on offense. So what you're really hoping for is that defense is going to, like with Mac Jones in 2023, keep things manageable, and hopefully the quarterback can close things out at the end. Was not one of Drake Maye's specialties last year. The one thing that I really, really want to see from him in 2025 is we need to see some game-winning drives, like put the hay in the barn and finish this out. But yeah, I think that expectations should be like Patriots competing for a playoff spot late in the year, just because, again, I don't think they're going to be the team that just constantly shoots themselves in the foot like we've seen over the past couple of seasons.
Who is their running back right now? Am I blanking?
It's Ramondre Stevenson. He signed a 4-year extension last offseason.
Yeah, no, I definitely was just blanking. Yes, okay, fair enough. I was going to say, do they add another body to that room? But I mean, he's the solidified.
Antonio Gibson's the number 2.
Yeah, like that was an interesting because they traded for him, or did they sign him as a free agent?
He was like the one exciting offensive signing they made last year.
And they did a bunch of different like alignment stuff with him, right? Where like he was
No, that's the disappointing thing. So that was one place where Alex Van Pelt did disappoint. It's just things weren't super, like the versatility of some players felt like it wasn't really exploited. It felt like everyone was where they were. That was it. And like Gibson used to be a wide receiver.
That's what I was saying, because that's why I asked, because he used to do a lot of stuff, especially in college and a little bit in Washington. It felt like that would have made sense to move him around.
Van Pelt, and no one really could give me an answer for why. Gibson sounded like he was kind of curious too when I talked to him about it, and Van Pelt was just like, "Yeah, we haven't done it yet," and it never happened. But that will not happen under McDaniels, so that should be more fun.
Okay, well, duly noted. Appreciate you joining me today, buddy. What can people check out on your end of things in terms of content?
Always a pleasure, babe. So you can find me on Twitter at tkyles39. And then my work is over on YouTube at Patriots Press Pass. We actually just debuted memberships. Super reasonable, and that's where I do a lot of my deep dives into film. So if you're at all interested in the Patriots defense, I've got some on Milton Williams, Robert Spillane, some on the pass rushers coming soon, and then clnsmedia.com for my written stuff.
I love it. And if you want to check out some of the stuff that I'm doing, be sure to go read all the written work at Sporting News. And for the longer feature stuff, I've got something on the 49ers coming, as well as what I like about the Vikings offseason. Those are all coming on USA Today. Buddy, it's always a pleasure being joined by you. We got to do it more often. Appreciate you joining me as always.
Appreciate you. Thanks again.
All right, guys. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you later on the Pump Fake.